Okay, let's just talk very quickly about a way that we can hopefully prevent any last minute changes that contain errors being actually deployed and breaking our application essentially. So one of the methods we can use is some sort of continuous integration tool. So the one I'm going to talk about today is called Travis. Maybe some of you heard of it, I don't know, but essentially what we can do is once you create a Travis account, then you can link it automatically with your GitHub. It's literally just a one-click thing. You log in with GitHub, and it will list all of your repositories. And if you want to enable continuous integration on any of your repositories, all you've got to do is click that from an X to a tick, and that will essentially position Travis between your application and GitHub. So when you push to GitHub, it doesn't directly go to GitHub, it will get intercepted by Travis, and therefore Travis can run any tests that you've set up to run on your code, and if those tests don't pass, then you're not gonna push your code to your deployed site. It will say, hang on, your tests have failed, you cannot deploy this. So this is very useful for maybe inexperienced developers who are new to the team and they don't quite know how the process works, or even if you're just making some changes late on a Friday night, you're tired, you make some mistakes, and you might put an absolute load of nonsense here. So you've made some sort of change and it breaks the app. So for that purpose, I'm just doing a dummy broken test there, just to simulate that this is going to break. So what we should do, of course, when we make changes to our code is before we deploy, if we have our TDD tests written, then we can just run npm test, right? That's built into our React apps and we can just run that. And that will fail. So that will alert us that, okay, you probably don't want to push yet, but let's say we're just in a rush, and therefore we do go straight away for the push. So I'm going to just push to my GitHub. So I just called it CI, is the name of my origin in this case. And then if I jump back onto Travis, and hopefully this CI test now will refresh very shortly. I don't think I have to refresh the page. I think it will just run automatically, he says, fingers crossed. I'll refresh the page just in case. It's taking its time, let's see. Everything up to date, sorry, so I need to actually do a change, so I just say minor Friday change. And I will push that to the CI one. Cool, so that has started pushing, so hopefully we will see this try and run a build very, very soon. Please. Any test, there we go, so now it's changed, so it's trying to build the project. So it's been running now for 6 seconds. And yeah, the test that it runs, I'll show you how it's running those tests in a second, because we need to add a configuration file to our project, otherwise it won't know what tests to run. But this is just all the setup for the environment that it's testing on. And then down here now, it's setting up the build cache. It's running npm install. So in other words, it's installing the dependencies for your project on its own servers. And then once it's done that, it's automatically going to run npm test, because we've told it to run npm test. I'll show you where in a second. So now it runs npm test. Oh, fail. So that test has failed. So therefore, if you'd set up any sort of automatic deployment, then it will prevent that deployment, or it just won't run the next script to actually deploy. And you can now get a warning here. Okay, well that failed. And if you just literally run that command and then run out the door and gone home for the weekend, then at least those changes would not have been deployed to the website, and you'd end up with a broken website the whole weekend, right? Because the test suite failed and the deploy would be blocked. So a really useful tool, and it's used in most companies, some sort of continuous integration. So initially we just had tools such as Travis and the standalone CI tools. Now they're being built into a lot of deployment methods themselves. So GitHub's got its own CI tools. Heroku's definitely now got something called Heroku Flow, which is something similar. And I imagine other deployment methods like Netlify, now AWS, they've all got their own tools built in, I'm pretty sure. However, the standalone tools are really useful and quite an easy way to get started. So I'd recommend that as an introduction just to play around with. How did we make it do that automatically? Well, in our main project, we created a file called travis.yaml. And not many settings are needed. We just specified that this is a Node application. If you want, you can specify a certain version of Node that Travis can install on its servers to test your application on. Just let it know what sort of package manager you're using, how to install your programs, and what scripts to run to either test your application or do some other sort of hook in here. And then we want to also automatically run the deployment, and if we did want to do that, we'd need to let it know a provider. So these are all just providers that Travis will recognize, so it's already connected in some way with Heroku servers. You just need to provide it with an API key and the name of your app, and it would deploy for you as well. That travis.yaml file should definitely be in the gitignore file. Well, I say that. What I would actually not do it in the gitignore, but I would make this a process.env.whatever, API key or something like Heroku key. So I'm going to change my API key after this so that no one can access my account, right? But I'd do something like that. That should be, of course, capitals, just to show that it's an environment variable. And then what you can do on Travis, I'll show you where now, Heroku key. And then what you could do on Travis is you come across, I think it's under their general settings. It's the settings of the, there we go. And then we've got environment variables for the particular repository. So in here I'd put the Heroku API key, right? Give it its value, and then that would pick it up in the deployed version when they try and build your application on their own servers. So you've got the same sort of thing in Heroku, right? You can set environment variables just by going into the settings. I mean, that's really all I wanted to show you, just quickly, just to make you aware that these tools exist and to give them a go. But all we needed to do was create travis.yaml file, create a Travis account, link it to our GitHub just by logging into GitHub via the Travis website, click on or off your repositories, and you're good to go, essentially. Of course, there's many more settings we can apply in here, so that's just a case of looking at the documentation and making it fit your needs. Any general questions?
Yeah, is that cloud account or is that true tier? True definitely.
Yeah, so a lot of Travis is free. They do have paid plans, but that's essentially only if you're an enterprise. So if you've got an enterprise version of GitHub, you've got an enterprise version of Travis, then you have to pay for it. But for individual personal needs, then yes, it will be free, and it's pretty much fully featured, I think, the free version. Just wonder if I could find, maybe if I logged out, it would give us some payment options. So there you go. It works really nicely with Heroku. I think they actually use it themselves for their own continuous integration. for all intents and purposes for you, it's going to be free, yeah? There are some other completely free tools out there. I think Jenkins is one of them. So another sort of similar thing, free and open source automation server they call it, but yeah, you can use it for obviously continuous integration. So that's another one you might want to have a look at. Or as I say now, you've got things like Heroku Flow, if you were using Heroku to deploy on. So you've got that. They all do roughly the same thing, right? So we can see how it's fitting in. We've made a push, and now the CI is testing it. The CI tool is testing it. And only when everything's approved, all the tests are passed, only then does it get actually incorporated into your main production branch, and therefore, or you could even set up things like that. You have to physically okay it. You have to physically click it for that deployment to run. But it just automates a lot of the testing for us. Hopefully cuts down a bit of human error. You know, if we're stressed out, if we're just, it's Christmas time, right? If our minds are elsewhere, then hopefully these tools will catch a few errors that might have otherwise been introduced. So obviously at the moment, you're doing, that's not too bad if that happens, right? You've just got one master branch, one, say, production branch. You make some features and then you incorporate it into the main branch. Usually there's not too many problems. However, on your team apps, you've been doing things more like this, yeah? This would be two people working on two separate features. One of them's done a branch there, the other one's done a branch there. One of them's merged, but the other one hasn't pulled the changes, so that's when we can start getting these things that might break some of our TDD tests that we put in place. So hopefully it catches a few of those conflicts before we try and do the merge. Any other questions? As I say, I wanted to make it short and sweet and just let you know that these tools exist rather than doing a full demo of it, yeah? Cool, alright, that's it then. I'll be floating around helping with the team apps. I know you've a lot of things you want to do today.